More often than not, people choose their cars based on their brand. Well, that's not just an opinion, that's a fact of life. This concept applies to other things as well, such as when you prefer Snickers over Kit Kat. Of course, purchase preferences can be influenced by a lot of things, but most of the time it's either the price or brand that counts. Some people don't even bother checking the quality of the vehicle and simply trust that it works because, well, that's from the brand they love. On the flip side, it's also worth noting that there are certain car brands that some or many people kinda hate for a variety of reasons. Hello everyone. This is Ted from Carland TV. Take the back seat as in this episode, I am going to reveal some of the most hated car brands right now in the United States, and the reasons why people are trying to dump them. Before I start, I would like to ask you the favor of hitting the subscribe and notification bells. They help the channel a lot. Now buckle up and let's get back to the video. Toyota. I know this is a bit intriguing considering that Toyota is a beloved brand for highly reliable vehicles. These are some cars that can easily reach 100,000 miles and can run for another 50,000 or 100,000 more. However, that isn't the be-all and do-all of cars, right? Take this for example. Some of the most popular cars produced by Toyota are based on the trims of the RAV4, Camry, and Corolla. As I've said, these vehicles are known for their top-notch reliability and durability. But are these cars perfect? Not really. Toyota hasn't been leading the market in terms of refinement, handling, or performance. Some other brands are way better than Toyota cars when it comes to these aspects. Surely enough, they can get you from point A to point B, but that's all that there is to be. There's a good chance that you won't enjoy driving them. I have been driving a Toyota Camry for quite some time, and I know that I can trust this vehicle. But there's also a part of me that is aware that its overall design is no longer relevant to modern design and style cues. There have been issues in steering and shifting the car which, well, I can handle, but they shouldn't be there in the first place. In short, Toyota cars are somewhat flatlined when it comes to innovation. Plus, I also have to bring up their pricing. More often than not, Toyota vehicles are priced higher than their immediate competitors, regardless if we are talking about the used or new market. Toyota tends to over-leverage its product's reliability, which is a fair point. But keep in mind that it's not only Toyota that has reliable cars. These days, consumers are already finicky when it comes to reliability, and car manufacturers have no other choice but to step up. In short, you can get a reliable car without having to rely on the Toyota brand. Subaru. I know Subaru shouldn't be here, but there's a growing number of people who have grown a distaste for the brand. To be fair, in the grand scheme, these numbers don't account for the entirety of the Subaru fanbase. I, for one, am a big Subaru enjoyer. Most Subaru cars, such as the Forester, have good handling and driving demeanor. Well, that's actually the sentiment if you are just driving the car. But once repairs come in, it becomes a headache. Troubleshooting Subaru vehicles are a bit problematic, as they are kind of difficult to fix. The extent of problems they can sustain can range from ugly to expensive, depending on which part was damaged. Yes. The actual problem perhaps that some people find is the kind of stress that these vehicles bring to their owners in terms of repairs and maintenance. Some folks who have Subaru SUVs in their garage have already told me that it's difficult to keep track of their repair costs. Thousands of dollars can be poured for a span of 3 to 5 years, which somehow dwindles the value of these cars. At the same time, there's a general perception that Subaru doesn't own up and resolve most of the common failures on their products, such as problematic head gaskets and excessive oil consumption. The burden tends to double once the warranty has already expired. If you are a car mechanic, then you can handle these issues without having to bust your savings. But if you are not, then you are on the bad side of things. Of course, this could also be due to how Subaru is being advertised. Right now, some folks tout the Subaru as a close-to-luxury automotive brand, which is not entirely true. The components and systems are pretty basic in my opinion, and there's nothing so jaw-dropping about them. I guess you shouldn't hate the cars, but the ones who are driving them. Suzuki. Suzuki no longer sells cars in the United States, and it is driven by a number of tough reasons. Number one is that it has poor sales, basically saying that Americans, in general, just don't find Suzuki cars appealing. In fact, It was in 2012 that the company filed for Chapter 11, which is a bankruptcy protection before it decided to stop its operation in the United States. Suzuki can't just compete in the North American market, which could be due to its limited provisions. For me, the company also had difficulties in complying with the regulatory standards here. The Suzuki SX4 and Kizashi had been a thing for quite some time in the market. Buyers were once interested in them, but realized that they didn't have enough power or refinement to compete with other leading car brands. The biggest sales that Suzuki had in the United States was in 2007, in which the company recorded over 100,000 units sold for that year alone. But right after that, the number dropped to a quarter. In hindsight, the problem was already there. Suzuki loves making small cars, and these models just don't appeal to American consumers who are used to spacious sedans, trucks, and SUVs. Keep in mind that this is not a problem for other countries, which aren't particular about the size of their cars. Inevitably, Suzuki dealerships in the US closed, and nobody had bothered themselves looking for these Japan-made cars anymore. I guess the point here is that Suzuki no longer has the means to compete in the US automotive market. It can no longer match up with Honda and Toyota, who have decided to join the small SUV segment. I strongly suggest that you don't buy a used Suzuki car, as getting spare parts and replacements would be really difficult now that the company is out of the US. Chrysler. There's already a consensus that Chrysler sucks. Well, that's not my actual viewpoint, but a lot of drivers have this exact same thought about the brand. Now, to be fair, I am not really sold on the idea that all Chrysler's products are at the bottom of the chain. But yeah, in the grand scheme, I can see that they aren't anyone's first choice for refined, reliable, and performing cars. In the United States, Chrysler is actually part of the Big Three, alongside Ford and GM. So it always fascinates me why there's a huge gap between Chrysler and those two other automotive giants. Of course, the key matter here is the reliability of Chrysler's cars, such as various models of Dodge and Jeep. For example, I heard a number of Jeep Wrangler owners who experienced check engine lights at 25,000 miles, which have required major replacements. Though most of these replacements are covered by warranties, that experience alone gave them the idea that these cars aren't worth keeping. Historically speaking, Chrysler has the least stability among the Big Three in the United States, and that could be due to certain external factors, such as having to continue producing cars amidst economic downturns. So, yeah, they adopted that practice and proceeded to make automotives with cheap build quality to offset costs and maximize profits. Some people even think that for the past 40 years or so, Chrysler hasn't been run by Stellantis as a car company, but instead, as a company that has just picked the automotive industry as their primary line. They divide their product brands to maintain their value, making it simpler to sell or separate more profitable divisions. It's as if they're constantly preparing for the next financial downturn. Instead of having a robust, long-term strategy, it appears they're focused on merely staying afloat and generating revenue while they can. By discontinuing SUVs under the Chrysler brand to avoid competing with their Jeep or other SUV lines, Stellantis essentially sealed Chrysler's fate. And that completes our list. Thanks for sticking to the end. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like and share buttons. I know it's a chore, but it helps the channel a lot. Until next time, drive safely. Drive